Okay, well, I'm going to get started and, hopefully others will join us as they can, but thank you to those who have joined today's webinar on what heat pumps can do for your community. My name is Amanda Mazzoni. I'm a principal planner at the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board. And I am here today with Lindsay Speer from Alliance for a Green Economy. And together we have an effort that is called HeatSmart CNY that Lindsay will be representing at the second half of the webinar today. But I wanted to start off with a little bit of context. First things first, I guess, logistics. Everybody that is participating has had their cameras turned off and has been muted. But if you do have questions, please post those in the chat and we will answer those at the end of the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to attendees and registrants after the webinar. So here's the context that I wanted to provide to start off today's webinar. As you may be aware, New York State adopted the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which includes a number of nation-leading climate goals related to both reducing greenhouse gas emissions and greening our electric grid, adding new renewable energy resources, as well as goals for energy efficiency and electrification. So you can see these goals on the slide here. And the key point that I wanted to make is that local governments are really key. They're needed to reach these goals. So the state has provided funding through the various programs that they offer related to energy efficiency and renewable energy. And we will be speaking about a couple of those today, specifically the Clean Energy Communities Program through NYSERDA and the heat pump or the HeatSmart CNY program, which is another program that's funded by NYSERDA. And so the idea is that these programs that the state has been funding will help local governments and their constituents to implement projects that will help the state to reach these goals. So again, really local governments are key in helping us to reach our state climate goals. So I'm going to start off today discussing NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities Leadership Round. And then I'll hand it over to Lindsay to discuss more about HeatSmart CNY and how we can partner through HeatSmart CNY with municipalities to achieve some of the high impact actions that are part of this Clean Energy Communities Leadership Round. In case anybody on the call is not aware, the Central New York Regional Planning and Development Board is a public agency founded in 1966 to serve the development needs of our 5-county region that includes Cayuga, Cortland, Madison, Onondaga, and Oswego County. This 5-county region is also the 5 counties that the HeatSmart CNY campaign covers, as well as the Central New York region as part of the Clean Energy Communities program. So you'll see this, this region highlighted throughout our presentation today. The energy management program specifically, myself and Chris Carrick, the program manager, are the 2 clean energy community coordinators for the Central New York region. We are contracted by NYSERDA to help municipalities implement the clean energy actions that are a part of that program and to help municipalities access the grant funds that are available through the program. But there are also coordinators throughout the entire state to help serve this purpose, which I'll just mention in a moment. But first, just in case you're not aware, the Clean Energy Communities program was initially created by NYSERDA in 2016 to help municipalities to implement clean energy action by providing tools and technical assistance through those clean energy community coordinators, as well as grant funds to help implement clean energy projects. So the program is available specifically to municipalities, and that's who our target is as clean energy community coordinators. But you'll notice that some of the high impact actions that we will mention today are more broadly focused on trying to get community members involved in implementing these types of projects as well. So I mentioned there are these clean energy community coordinators throughout the entire state. So in case you are speaking with a colleague that's outside of our region, just know that there are similar efforts throughout the entire state, and we can connect them with the correct person in their region. I wanted to pull up this regional map again, just to show that this is the breakdown of regions for the Clean Energy Communities program. And that you'll note, I'll mention some of the grant opportunities are available first come, first serve by region, whereas others are first come, first serve by the state. So just keep this map in mind, when I'm talking about any of the regional grant opportunities, that just to know that this is the 5-county region that our Central New York communities are competing against in that first come, first serve regional grant. So I mentioned the program has been around since 2016. This map shows you participating in designated clean energy communities. Designated communities have completed at least 4 of the high impact actions. So you can see a good amount of interest and activity has been going on in Central New York, but also across the state. So once the original round of the Clean Energy Communities program ran out of funding, NYSERDA thought, well, we have all this great interest and communities are really interested in working through these types of energy efficiency, renewable energy projects. So let's keep it going. So they released the Clean Energy Community Leadership Round in January of this year. That includes some additional new high impact actions, as well as new opportunities for grant funding. So the last round of the program, there was one method of receiving grants that was through designation. So again, completing 4 high impact actions to become a designated clean energy community. Now those grants are still available. They're available at $5,000 per community. If you've already received a designation grant, you cannot receive another. But if you're a community that's only completed, a couple of actions so far, this is still available to your community to pursue. There are 2 new types of grant funds available through this program as well. Action grants. So some of the high impact actions have grants associated with just completing that one action. And then point-based grants, each of the high impact actions now has a certain amount of points associated with completing it. And there are grants available as you reach different points thresholds. So what that looks like, if you are a small community, most of the municipalities in our region have a population of less than 40,000 people and are considered a small or medium-sized community. These grants are available per region. So they are first come, first serve. There's 40 grants available for our region at $10,000 for communities that earn at least 3,000 points. If a community earns 4,000 points and you're a small community, there are 10 grants available at $20,000 each. And then there are 4 grants available at $70,000 each if you earn 5,000 points. And the thing to note is that these are, they do stack on top of each other. So if you are one of the first 4 communities to earn 5,000 points, that means that you could be eligible for $10,000 plus $20,000 plus $70,000. And then in case you are one of our few communities that is a large community with a population of 40,000 or more, these are the grants that are available statewide. So there are 50 grants statewide that are $30,000 each at 3,000 points, 20 grants statewide at $70,000 once you reach 4,000 points, and then 10 grants statewide at $150,000 once you reach 5,000 points. So something to keep in mind that if you have been participating in this program since day one or since a couple of years ago. Many of the actions that you've completed to this point will already assign your community points retroactively. So you're not necessarily starting from square one here and starting at 0 points. Many communities have already earned a good chunk of points to start working towards these point-based grants. There's one other avenue for funding in this program that's a bonus grant. If your community earns a grant in the amount of $20,000 or greater, and you plan to use that funding in a disadvantaged community as defined by the map on this webpage, if you plan to use the funds in one of those disadvantaged community areas, you would automatically be eligible for an additional $10,000 bonus for that project. So, once we provide these slides after the webinar, click the link and see where those disadvantaged communities fall and see if there's any locations within your community that you might be able to receive one of these bonus grants for. I'm just going to quickly go through the high impact actions that are related to today's topic. So you can see here the list of the other actions, but circled are the ones that I'll just be describing briefly today. These first two that are circled are related to municipal buildings implementing energy efficiency and or heat pump projects in municipal buildings. And then the next action, the third action that I'll mention briefly is the community campaign, which is the more community facing effort to getting constituents to implement energy efficiency and or heat pump technologies in their homes. And I will just note here that the community campaigns is one of the two actions through the program that is also eligible for one of those action grants that I mentioned. So first I'll mention the clean energy upgrades action. It is worth 500 points. The requirement is to reduce emissions in municipal buildings that are 1,000 square feet and larger by at least 10% through clean energy actions taken since January 1st of 2020. So in the past, I've included some photos here of some communities that have received points already retroactively for completing these actions. In the past, it's been mostly for LED lighting and other types of upgrades at municipal buildings and facilities. But the opportunity now is that you can use energy efficiency upgrades like insulation and air sealing to count towards this reduction requirement and or heat pump installations. So Lindsay will be discussing a little bit more later, more about heat pump technology and the assistance that HeatSmart CNY can provide in assessing these technologies in municipal buildings. But this is the first municipal building action that's related to energy efficiency and heat pumps. And the second is the clean heating and cooling demo. This is also worth 500 points, and the requirement is to have at least one of your municipal buildings converted to heat pump technology for both heating and cooling and hot water heating since January 1st of 2020. The building must be at least 1,000 square feet and has to be open to the public year long, as well as have an educational component like some materials to flyers that people can read or a kiosk that describes the benefits of electrification in buildings, to get the public more knowledgeable on the benefits and how they can help us reach those New York State goals that I mentioned at the beginning. So I've included a couple of examples here from the village of Pulaski and the village of Cazenovia at municipal buildings where they have installed air source heat pumps already. And I know Lindsay has a couple of other examples that she'll be mentioning during her presentation as well. So they may be good communities to reach out to if you have questions about heat pumps in your municipal buildings and how to go through that process. And then finally, I apologize for the amount of text on this slide, but I really wanted to make sure you had all of the information in front of you and had these slides available to refer back to after the webinar. So for this final action, the community campaigns, the focus here is on clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency. But I will also note that there are 3 other community campaign types that a municipality can pursue. They all work very similarly in that there is an education and outreach component with direct municipal participation. And they all also have a minimum number of signups in order to qualify for the 200 points and the action grant. So I'll just today explain specific requirements for the clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency campaign. So this would require partnering with the local regional HeatSmart campaigns, including HeatSmart CNY, but having that direct municipal participation. And so if a community is interested in pursuing this action, the first step is to connect with me and Lindsay to fill out NYSERDA's required scoping document. So this is a document to help you organize your campaign. It'll explain, who's going to be participating, what type of events you will be hosting, what partnerships you'll be having. And that's where Lindsay and I can be helpful in providing some assistance and helping to fill out this required document because this document must be approved by NYSERDA before your campaign can launch and you can count any of the signups or installations that occur through the campaign. So we want to make sure to get that scoping document in as soon as we can once your community knows that you're interested in this type of campaign. And then the second part is the minimum number of requirements. So for small or medium communities, there's a requirement of at least 10 installations. And for large communities, there's a requirement of at least 25 installations. And specific to the clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency campaign, at least 3 for small communities and 6 for large communities have to be a clean heating and cooling technology, meaning a heat pump of some kind, ground source, air source, heat pump, or a heat pump hot water heater. The other, 7 or 19 needs could be just energy efficiency if that's the way that it works out in your community. But at least 3 and at least 6 for the larger communities need to be heat pumps to qualify. The last note is that if the municipality decides to convert one of your buildings to heat pumps or install energy efficiency upgrades at your municipal building, that is not eligible to be counted as a customer because it is eligible to get you points through those other 2 actions that I mentioned before. So this is really, again, an outreach campaign for your constituents to get them on board with clean heating and cooling technologies and energy efficiency. And if all of those requirements are met, then your community would also be eligible for a $5,000 action grant if you are in the small community category, or a $15,000 action grant for the large community category. So with that, if you have any questions or would like to follow up after the webinar, here's my contact information. And otherwise, I will be handing it over to Lindsay to get into some more detail about what is HeatSmart CNY and how we can help municipalities and constituents consider energy efficiency and heat pump projects. So thank you. And with Lindsay, I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Lindsay Speer. I'm the Campaign Director for HeatSmart CNY. I'm the Director of Community Programs for Alliance for a Green Economy. HeatSmart CNY is one of many clean heating and cooling community programs in the state. I'll have a map in a minute. And we are basically doing outreach and education around how do we heat our homes without fossil fuels. So over 90% of our houses in New York are heated with fossil fuels currently. And as we enter a renewable energy era, there are opportunities to really improve our homes, to adopt more use of renewable energy to power all of our needs. To date, we've had over 1,000 participants in the HeatSmart CNY campaign. We've been running for about 3 years now. We have over 100 events that we've had, both open houses, workshops, and better days. We've done a lot of virtual events in the last year. We are gearing up to now be in person again, which is a very exciting thing, but we will continue doing some virtual events ongoing. To date, we have over 99 houses improved. The numbers are a little bit, I'm waiting on the installers to catch up on the reporting to me, but I'm pretty sure we're well over 100. And we calculate 480 tons of carbon dioxide saved from the projects cumulatively each year, which when you compare it to other things, that's the same as for each of those homes taking a car off the road entirely. Here's a map of the other clean heating and cooling communities in New York State. Like I said, we're one of many. If you are from outside the Central New York region, I'm happy to connect you with the clean heating and cooling community directors in your area. So what the heck is a heat pump? A heat pump basically works by using electricity efficiently to capture the energy that is in the environment around us. Even when it's very cold outside, there is still energy. It can be captured from the ground with ground source heat pumps, or from the air with cold climate air source heat pumps. You can see this description here, this image is showing a air source heat pump. The conventional wisdom has been that they don't work in Central New York because air source heat pumps are used very commonly throughout much of the United States. And they do lose efficiency when it gets colder. Now, that said, there's been real improvements in air source heat pumps in the last 15 years. So now they have cold climate air source heat pumps that are designed to work at temperatures, down to 15 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, and sometimes even lower. So it's a really excellent opportunity to get ourselves off of expensive heating fuels like oil and propane. And so basically it's capturing the energy that's outside. It takes the temperature that's outside, goes through a heat exchanger, brings it inside into a heat exchanger with some refrigerant. It compresses that gas. When you compress a gas, it makes it warmer. It makes the temperature you want inside your house. It goes through the distribution system, and then the refrigerant goes back outside, picks up more heat, brings it back in. In the summertime, it reverses. So a heat pump is not only just heating for your house, it's cooling. And so we're going to go through some details here. I'm going to talk about examples and some incentives for financing this available. And we're going to talk about what it looks like to partner with HeatSmart CNY on these community campaigns. So, sorry, into this already. So you can see, we've had a lot of people in our program who have come through who have really old oil boilers, oil furnaces in their basements. They're tired of the leaks, they're tired of the smell, they're tired of the expense of it, and really want to make a change. A lot of households in upstate New York still have these systems. A lot of them are supplementing with wood, for example, to keep their costs down. We have a lot of people who are growing older in their homes that are finding it more difficult to keep up with the wood. And many of them have turned to heat pumps as an alternative to that wood oil combination. So now it's just they have the wood in case it gets really super cold, and then they have the air source heat pumps to carry most of the load, or the geothermal heat pumps. It's a way for us to heat our buildings without the pollution and fumes and expensive fossil fuels. And again, it adds cooling to a lot of homes that don't have it, which is a good climate adaptation strategy. Our summers are getting hotter, and people have a harder time dealing with that. It allows us to power it all with renewable energy and dramatically reduce our carbon emissions. So here's the ground loops I was talking about in the geothermal system. This is the ground loop, and it goes into a heat exchanger with a refrigerant loop, and then go to the home. Everyone has a heat pump in their house already. It's a refrigerator. And so this is basically using the same technology as a refrigerator, only on a much larger scale and reversible. We're seeing dramatic decreases in energy costs. I'll show a chart later. For people who are particularly on oil, propane, and resistance electrics, 3 of the most expensive fuels to heat with. It also provides an opportunity to really upgrade the heating system for homes. because it provides more even temperatures, different zones, and again, cooling where it doesn't exist before often, or very efficient cooling, much more efficient than the old window shakers. And it's healthier homes. This year, we've all been thinking a lot more about respiratory impacts of our homes and the buildings and the places around us. And so, not having any combustion in the home allows, means that there's no carbon monoxide opportunities to be emissions in the house or other pollutants from combustion. And there is air filtration available with these. And again, it's good for the environment. And you can power them with solar panels. So here's a comparison of the heating costs. For the rural communities, this is a really big deal for a lot of people. Being able to cut down on the costs of their electric or propane or oil. You can see the geothermal and ground source heat pumps and air source heat pumps are very efficient. I've known many people who have cut their heating bills down to a quarter. If they pair it with solar, there's households that are going and only paying their electrical costs for the connection to the grid. And so they're basically paying $20 a month, and then all their heating and electricity is covered. You do have to have a relatively substantial solar panel system for that, but it is possible. You'll note that gas, and I haven't changed these numbers recently, but this was the way it was a couple of years ago. Gas is currently an inexpensive fuel because we do not account for the societal costs of fracking in the costs of gas coming to our homes. And so for households going to make the switch from gas, usually it's a very similar cost of operation, but it doesn't have a payback period like from the other fuels. That said, we've had a lot of people who just want to get off of gas. They want to get off of the explosion risk in their home, and they want to make that change. So here's some examples of places with air source heat pumps. Sinclair and Skinny Atlas, the Hamilton Village Fire Department, Hamilton Town Hall now has air source heat pumps. And the Preble Town Hall is air source heat pumps and powered by solar. This is what they look like on the inside. This is particularly the ductless variety. You can also have ducted air source heat pumps that just go in the basement or the utility closet or wherever it connects with the ductwork. For homes that are switching from, say, oil boilers, if they don't have the ductwork existing, this is the sort of systems that get installed. You can have floor units or ceiling units, depending on what the situation is of your house. This is what a geothermal system looks like in the basement. This is, again, a ducted system here. You can also have geothermal systems that go to hydronic systems. So if people have underfloor heat, for example, if they have radiators, the geothermal systems don't heat to the same temperature as a boiler, but you can add additional capacity to a house, external distribution capacity to make up for that. Geothermal systems, it does involve a fair amount of heat exchange with the ground. So you can see, you can either do horizontal or vertical wells. The vertical wells, you have a drill rig that comes in, it drills down up to 500 feet for the well, depending on the amount of capacity needed. Or you could have these slinky loops, they call them, in the ground. And then you just backfill over it and reseed. Some examples of buildings with ground source heat pumps: the Marcellus Library, the Food Bank of Central New York's warehouse. Auburn Memorial City Hall has been geothermal for about 10 or 15 years now. The Shinman Science Center at SUNY Oswego, and the Pike Block in downtown Syracuse, which just goes to show how little space you need to do it. They drilled right through the sidewalk in downtown Syracuse. And I also want to highlight the Onondaga Nation Fire Department. They are solar and geothermal for their new community building in their fire department. Heat pump water heaters are also one of the technologies that we're promoting. And so basically this is a standalone unit, just like a conventional water heater. It's a little bit taller. It has this unit on top that's basically pulling from the air in the basement around it to bleed off some of that heat and put it into, pump up the temperature and put it into the water. And it has the benefits of being 2 to 3 times more efficient than a resistant electric water heater. And it also has a little bit of dehumidifying ability also because of the way it's pulling the air. This is a really inexpensive comparatively way of getting into heat pumps. And so we're seeing a number of households do that. We're working with now 5 installers on this process. We wanted to basically build off of the Solarize campaigns, do some pre-vetting of installers, give people recommendations of who they can go to. Sometimes it's just decision paralysis, not knowing who is reputable. We wanted to at least give people a choice of a number of them we can recommend. So you can see that they have a number of different specialties. Some do geothermal, some do air source, some focus more on the home performance. And we also are now adding in Breathe Easy combined with Zero Draft to our program. So what do people install? Currently through the program, we've had 45 cold climate air source heat pumps installed, 30 ground source heat pumps. A lot of houses have done more insulation and air sealing, and no matter what fuel you're using, no matter what your heating system is, tightening up the home, making it more energy efficient is a great way of improving comfort and reducing electrical bills or energy bills in general. We've done some dual fuel systems, which is a combination of gas and air source heat pumps. So it allows households on gas to get the benefits of air source heat pumps, and then when the cost difference makes it more sense for them to use with gas, they can switch over. There's not as much climate savings from that, but it's still a benefit, and it's sort of a baby step towards heat pumps for a number of people. And of course, heat pump water heaters. There's a number of programs available currently to help people with the costs. Anytime you do home improvement projects, it's always expensive. And even more so this year, unfortunately, because of some of the supply chain issues. NYSERDA has a number of programs for people of all income levels to help with the energy efficiency work. So insulation, air sealing, this can also include things like LED light bulbs. And we want to make sure, and so this is an opportunity to let your residents of your town know about these opportunities. For low-income households, there's the Empower program. This is for people at 60% of area median income and lower. So if they qualify for SNAP or HEAP or other programs like that, they would qualify for Empower. That's up to $10,000 of energy efficiency work, insulation, for no cost to them. It's a huge benefit. For people who are in between the 60 to 120% of area median income, and that's going to be good through the fall. It's going to decrease to about 100% of area median income in the fall. There's the Assisted Home Performance Program. It's a 50% cost share, so for up to $10,000. So the household would put up to $5,000 into the project, and NYSERDA would match the other $5,000. And then for market rate households, there's a program called Comfort Home. It says up to $4,000 for insulation air sealing. It's up to $4,000 for insulation air sealing and doing your windows. It's a tiered level system. If you're just doing insulation air sealing, it's about $2,000 of a benefit. And then for heat pumps, there are currently major incentives through the utilities and the NYSERDA through the New York State Clean Heat Incentive Program. And that's going to be running for about 5 years. So that, and who knows what it's going to do after that. So that's ongoing. It's totally available. For cold climate air source heat pumps, you're looking at about $1,000 per 10,000 BTU hours. We're seeing most houses that's $2,000 to $5,000 or so. Ground source heat pumps, it's a $1,500 incentive per 10,000 BTU hours. And there's a $700 heat pump water heater incentive. I will note that, so I've been talking about residential for the most part. This also applies to all buildings for the New York State Clean Heat incentives, up to 300,000 BTU hours of heating load. So small businesses, nonprofits, faith communities, they all would fall for the most part into this incentive project. There are incentives for buildings that are greater than 10,000 or 30,000 BTU hours. Sorry, 300,000 BTU hours. It's a per MMBTU savings. So it's basically, it's calculated on the amount of energy savings of a project. So that gets a little bit more complicated to explain. It is possible. There is federal tax credits for all these technologies. There is a $300 credit for cold climate air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters, and there's a 26% credit for geothermal heat pumps until 2023. We also have an affordability grant through HeatSmart CNY. It's currently at $2,000 a home for air source heat pumps, $7,500 a home for ground source heat pumps, and $350 for heat pump water heaters. The goal is to try to drive down the upfront costs. What are those upfront costs? Well, here's some examples. So here's a house in Cuyahoga County that was a HeatSmart program house. This was a market rate house. They did basically 2 outdoor units, 4 indoor units, converting off of oil. This was a house that the homeowners had, when they were living in it, used wood to keep the costs down. They ended up buying another house and started renting this one out. Didn't trust the tenants to use the stove safely. And so they were all oil and ended up, they were paying for the heat and the rent covered not even the heat from the tenants. So they've installed a cold climate air source heat pump system. It's kept the costs much, much lower for them. They got a $4,000 NYSERDA rebate at the time. Again, that's now would be a more significant rebate through the utility New York State Clean Heat Program. And they also did insulation and air sealing work. This is a house in Manlius. This was a gas-powered house built in the 1960s. They did a major renovation. They did a major upgrade of their heating system with it. They went geothermal. They did 2 geothermal wells. They did 2 based on the local geology. Sometimes they drill more shorter wells. Sometimes they can drill 1 larger, deeper well. They did a heat pumps for not only the heating and cooling, but also for the hot water. And you can see the retrofit cost. It was an expensive project. Again, it was a major renovation for them. But you can also see the amount that the incentives kick in. And then they also installed solar. So they have really dramatically decreased their energy costs that way. So direct comparison of their energy expenditures, looking at just the heating. Before they were heating with gas, they were spending 893 therms, about $1,000 a year. With the geothermal, it's 3,400 kilowatt hours. And if they were to pay that at the straight, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, it would be $340 of their costs, but then covering a lot of that with their solar. And again, the climate savings are significant, where they were expending 4.7 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents with the gas furnace, and it's down to half a ton. And so the cost of their heating and cooling is only $540 a year, and that's not including offsetting those costs with solar. This is another example. This was a house that they had a propane backup, but mostly heated with wood. This was a house where it was a couple, the husband passed away. And so it was harder for his partner to remain and stay in the house. She basically shut down to 2 rooms in the winter, sealed up the rest of the house, was huddled around the wood stove to keep things going, was able to do a full conversion to geothermal with solar. Again, it was a substantial investment, but this basically brought a 200-year-old house into this century. This house, again, she's only paying $20 a month for her utility bill at this point. All heating, all electric is covered because she put in a substantial solar panel system. All right, here's some examples. We've seen a lot of homes do that solar geo combination. It makes them net zero or nearly net zero, depending on what other electric uses that they have in the house. If people have electric vehicles, they can typically maybe haven't quite covered the whole load with their solar panels. So community campaigns. We've worked, over the past 3 years, we've worked with a number of municipalities already in a sort of a light touch kind of way. We worked with the town of Lafayette, we worked with the village of Homer. and we would collaborate on an event together, put some information out in their newsletter. The community campaigns through the Clean Energy Community Program is a little bit more substantial, but we are here, so we have this campaign running for the HeatSmart CNY. We have this running, we're running for another year throughout all 5 counties of Central New York: Onondaga, Oswego, Cayuga, Cortland, and Madison. And so one of the things that you can benefit from by actually signing up to do your community campaign sooner rather than later is that any enrollments that come in from your municipality after you've signed up to do this program, you can count them towards your credit. That said, we do need partners on the ground to help create events and to do utilize your local organizing, local communications pathways to help get the word out. Draw on your partnerships with local organizations. But we have templates from media advisories, press releases, newsletter articles, social media. We've got lawn signs and flyers we can share. We're happy to do training on outreach around heat pumps. And we can handle all the tracking of the enrollees. So we have sign up forms, and we would have a specific sign up enrollment page for your campaign specific to your municipality, and we'd be able to help you keep track of who's actually enrolled and what stage they're at. Again, we've gone through the process of pre-vetting a number of the installers, and I can give lots of presentations. And in many places, we already have homeowners who have installed heat pumps. And so we can help you connect with them, and they may be interested in featuring their house, talking to the media. It depends on the homeowner, of course, but some of them are willing to share. A lot of them are really excited about their homes and they want to share it with others. We have a number of presentations that we do. We do a Heat Pumps 101 on the second Monday of the month. So that's an ongoing presentation that anyone can come to, but you can list it in your part of your community campaign as one of the things that's being done. We also do virtual tours, we do open houses, we do workshops, we also do special topics. We did how to care for your cold climate air source heat pump a little while ago. We did one specifically on home performance with Dick Kornbluth, who is a retired home performance contractor, an expert in the field. And we have many more being planned. So the way it works for people, they basically sign up with us, pick an installer, and the installer comes out and takes a look at their house, gives them an estimate of what it would take to, depending on what the homeowner's interest, are they looking just for insulation upgrades, or are they looking to go all geothermal or all air source heat pump? They'll give them a quote. We walk participants through the technologies. They can come to our events and learn more. We help them connect with the financing and incentives, and people sign the contract and install. It is a multi-month process. These systems are a major retrofit, and so this is not a short campaign. I encourage anyone who's thinking about doing this to start sooner rather than later. Homeowners tend to take about 6 months to, it depends on the homeowner, but we're seeing an average of 6 months from start to finish, sometimes even a little bit longer if there's delays for various reasons. So there's my contact information. I'm happy to talk with questions, and yeah, we'll go from there. I just want to do a shout out to John. Thanks for joining us, John. John is actually one of our HeatSmart CNY participants.
Thanks, Lindsay. So just a reminder to folks to post questions in the chat if you have any at this point. We do have one question for you, Lindsay. Mm-hmm. Is there a payback requirement in order to be considered for the rebates you were discussing?
Right. For the New York State Clean Heat rebates, where it's just the grant amounts, per 10,000 BTU hours, those do not have a payback requirement. In order for there to be the larger systems, it's, I think that ends up being more of a payback requirement because it's per the energy saved. In general, we are seeing that these systems save people a lot of energy, but there is no specific, like it has to be paid back in this many years. Does that answer the question, Miranda?
If you have any follow-up questions, just post it in the chat. I don't have any other questions at the moment in the chat, Lindsay, but I was just hoping that you could, oh, Miranda says, thanks, that works. I was hoping that you could quickly just walk through how the process is the same or different for municipal buildings.
Certainly, yes. So with municipal buildings, we've worked with a number of municipalities already. Most municipal buildings are not large buildings, and so they would fall into that smaller rebate. It's not a smaller rebate, it's the prescriptive rebate for smaller buildings. And so it's basically the same thing. We have installers that can come out and take a look at the building and give you an estimate. There are other programs available through NYSERDA if you want to get more technical, if you want to have engineers really involved in the project, for example, instead of just a design build contractor. There is for buildings greater than 10,000 square feet, I believe, there's a free clean heating and cooling assessment available through NYSERDA. And there's also the Flex Tech program, which is a cost sharing program to help with engineering costs of designing larger systems. But again, if you have, a smaller municipal building, that may not be overkill for what you need to do. And so basically, the same thing, the installers come out, they give you an estimate and a quote, and you can take that back to your board and make your decisions.
Thanks. And then just one final reminder that I'll ask you to give is what should municipal leaders do if they want to get some sort of assessment through HeatSmart CNY for one of their buildings?
Enroll with us. I'll put it in the chat. We have an online web form, and feel free to reach out to me directly if you'd like. If you want to talk through who the installers are, on our website, we have all the installers listed with some of their specialties and their experience. I'm happy to talk people through who might be a good match for you. Some of them work in certain areas and not in others geographically. But yeah, signing up, enrolling, you can connect with an installer. It basically goes straight to the installer once you hit submit. Make sure there's no delay on our end. And you can get multiple quotes from installers if you'd like as well. Definitely. Yeah, so that's the main thing. Just sign up with us, because if you don't, then I can't track the project. It's hard for me to give you advice or help. So it does help to have this signed up.
Thanks, Lindsay. So I am not seeing any further questions in the chat. So I am going to just thank everybody for attending again, and please reach out to myself or Lindsay with any follow-up questions about either the Clean Energy Communities program in general, or one of the high impact actions that I spoke about today, or if you're interested in the HeatSmart CNY collaboration, or enrolling, and you can reach out through that or enroll directly through that link Lindsay posted in the chat.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, everybody, for joining, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon. Thank you very much.